in times of adversity, it becomes increasingly important to prudently try to navigate hardship. We have to try to make good decisions. We have to try to have a winning hand. We have to try to make sure that at the end of every day we wind up a little bit better off than we were at the beginning. Life mandates us to try to do better every day, to try to win. And so we don't want to go down the path of having this attitude of futility, where we begin to say, well, nothing I do really makes a difference. It's not going to work out very well anyway, so I might as well just throw up my hands and not even try at all. We don't want to be bad stewards and then use the fact that times are hard as an excuse for not giving our best. And yet, at the same time, it's also important to make a point to be at peace with the world as it is. Sometimes we can do the best we know how to do and still be falling short of where we want to be. Sometimes that's because the best we know how to do still includes certain strategic oversights. We make mistakes even when we use all of our faculties to the best of our known ability. We can try our best. We can even sometimes make no mistakes and still fail. But there's a difference between failing because you do your best and you aren't good enough, or you made a poor judgment in good faith, and doing things which are just on the front side not good judgment. You know it's not a good idea. You know it's not really something to be proud of. And yet you do it anyway. A good rule of thumb would be, if you were going to be 100% transparent with a board of directors, with your family there, with your friends there, with your clients, your employees, completely open for public review and scrutiny, would you be proud of what you're doing? That's the question. Would you be able to speak confidently and proudly about your strategy, to explain the reason why you're doing what you're doing, to make a case for why it's wise, it's prudent, it's not too risky, and it's built on a foundation of integrity and good character? Or would the things you're doing be more in the ballpark of the type of stuff that you'd like to keep in the shadows? The kind of things you would hope it works out, but you really would rather not have other people know what you're doing. I think it's like saying you want to invest in cryptocurrency. You know, is it really a good investment? I don't know. What I do know is I would be very hesitant to put all of my money into the cryptocurrency and go before all of the people in my life and say, I put all of our money into this, and that's a good decision. you know, because I really don't know. I mean, it might go up. You might double your money, certainly. But you might lose a bunch of money too. So do you want to put your family's security on the line for that? Or would you, if you had to give account, decide that maybe you wanted to make some more prudent investments, safer investments? You would think a little bit longer and harder about it. And then you'd probably do something that doesn't have as much of an upside, it doesn't have as much of a gimmick, a quick promise of doubling your money or something like that, but it's also less likely to lose you money if it goes the wrong direction. Somebody said, you know, of cryptocurrency, it's true. You might get that 20% gain, but don't put your retirement into it if you aren't also comfortable with the fact you might lose 20% in the same time period. So we need to make good decisions. The kind of decisions that we could go to bat for if we had to give account to others. I think that's a really good attitude to have, whether you're talking about money or you're talking about other decisions in life. If you didn't have any privacy and any secrecy, if 100% of what you were doing was right out there in the public for everybody to see, and there was no hiding or concealing or taking refuge in omissions, half-truths, if it was just all out there, would you be able to be proud of what you're doing? And if the answer is no, then you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's just that simple. Whether it's an investment or it's an attitude you have or it's something you're saying to people or about them. I wanted to talk a little bit about how doors of opportunity sometimes don't open for us until we learn to give thanks for the life that we have. Sometimes it's when you learn to be grateful, right where you are, without any expectation of having more or something different. That's when you're able to kind of have that breakthrough, and then blessings that you didn't ever anticipate having will come your way. But it's that point of abandon when you stop trying to pretend to be having the right attitude and you truly do have the right attitude. When you truly say, whether I get my way or I don't, whether the path leads left or right, I'm going to give thanks for the life I have, and I'm going to have no bitterness or malice or guile or anger or any of those things. I'm going to just be thankful for the life I have, and I'm going to try my very best to make good decisions and be a good steward of that. That's when you have those breakthroughs, and then suddenly you realize some of those dreams that you had and the hopes that you had, they're not necessarily as far away as you thought maybe they were, but you have to go through that phase of giving thanks even when you don't get your way. Learning to wait can also be really important. I think about this a lot in the context of the stock market. Quite often I'll see a good deal. I'll see stock price for something falls, and I think to myself, well, I'd like to buy some of that now because that seems like a really good deal. And then there's that feeling of I need to get in there right now. I need to dive in. I need to buy because it's going to go back up. I'm going to lose that opportunity. But what I also have found is that many times that's a false instinct. It will betray you, because you're going to have this FOMO, this feeling of I've got to move on it right now. I got to jump right in right now. And usually when you have that feeling, you're better off to kind of calm down and wait, because it's okay if a good deal passes you by here and there. Just chill out and wait. And there's a lot of times when you think that you see the bottom, it's not really the bottom. It's got a little ways further to go. You think that it's the deal of a lifetime, but you wait, and you know what? A little while later, a few days later, it's an even better deal. So really, really be careful about that sense of FOMO, that sense of, it's such a crazy situation right here, right now, that I can't afford to wait. Learning how to wait with patience can be a really important tool in your arsenal, and it can be just as powerful and also just as hard as those titanic moves that require great sacrifice or great acts of heroism, great feats. You think about making overwhelming sacrifices in your life. You think about doing things which require a lot of endurance, and the truth is sometimes just being quiet and waiting and being patient when you feel agitated or anxious or inclined to want to be restless, to just pause during that time and say, you know what, I don't need anything dramatic to happen right now. It's okay to just take pleasure in the magic of ordinary things. Another thing on my mind is lifestyle fitness. I think it's interesting how you look at people, and you don't even have to necessarily know very much about them or know anything about them to make these sort of snap judgments about what kind of folks they are. You see somebody that's dressed really sloppy and they're moving erratically and they're super skinny, and you know what? Like, you can kind of tell somebody who's sort of tweaked out on some kind of drugs, and they're living that sort of a dishonest hustling lifestyle, seeing if they can steal a little bit of something here and there. Maybe they're scoping out some place for for their next next thing that they're going to lift for a 5-finger discount or whatever it might be. You can see those kinds of people, and you don't even have to talk to them. You just know, like, this is a sketchy looking person. And then there's the folks who are just fat and lazy, like, go down to the Walmart, look around, you see a bunch of folks can barely move around, driving around big cars and circling the parking lot 10 times just so that they can get that parking space that's 10 feet closer to the door. And they get out and they can barely walk across the parking lot to get into the store. And is it a surprise? You look in their cart and there's a bunch of junk food in there. I mean, no, not really a surprise. And then you get to know these people. It turns out their lazy lifestyle permeates every single part of their being. It's not a surprise. And there's a sort of a passive corruption there. That sense of entitlement, a sense of laziness, a desire to get something for nothing, or any sort of character flaws like that. So I guess the point I'm getting at here is you look in the mirror, and what do you see? Do you see a person with character flaws that are out there like a billboard? Or do you feel like you see a person with integrity when you look at the person on the other side, when you look at yourself peering back through the mirror at you? Are you proud of the person you see? And the question is, what can you do about it? And it's not just about, whether you're fat or thin. It's about, how do you dress? How do you carry yourself? How do you conduct yourself in society? Do you have a level of pride? Do you act in a way which engenders trust? Or do you have a lot of things going on which all add up to sending mixed signals about whether you're the kind of a person that people would want to trust or to be around? And the truth is, first impressions do matter quite a bit, because in my experience, there's many times where You look at somebody and you make a judgment of what you think that person's all about, and whether you trust your gut or not, after a while, if you're around those people for a prolonged period of time, it's extremely common that people wind up being exactly what they looked like, exactly what your gut told you they were about or not about. That's probably what they are. You know, if they look like they're lazy, they probably are lazy. If they look like they're, you know, kind of ignorant, they probably are. If they look like they're a little dishonest or sketchy, they probably are. And when you give people the benefit of the doubt, once in a while they prove you wrong, but most of the time people wind up being exactly what your gut would have told you they appeared to be. And finally, consistency. There's a lot of people who have good jobs, they have high rank, they have a lot of stuff going for them, but they don't necessarily live consistently. You can be an HR manager and you know exactly what you are supposed to be saying to represent your business or something like that, but then you drive outside, it's 5:30, and somebody cuts you off in the parking lot on the way out, and suddenly you're giving them the middle finger and you're swearing at them, and you're waist deep in a little bit of passive road rage. Well, doesn't really matter how much you know what to say at work, because the minute you walk out the door, you're a different kind of a person, and that's not how you want to be. You want to be consistent. Doesn't matter how much you know how to say things that are sounding good or communicate the right kind of a message if you then proceed to be super ignorant in your personal life. The people who really are able to succeed in life, whether we're talking about financial success or career success or just that sense of personal well-being and positive mental health, it's people who are consistent, where the person that they are at work is the person they are outside of work, and end to end they just pretty much are authentic, and there's not any double standards or any looking good for the camera or acting right for an audience and then doing something crazy when the camera is off or when the when the audience changes. So try to be consistent. And somebody once said that success isn't about people who focus on results. It belongs to people who focus on the right methods. And I think that that's definitely true. When we focus on being the right kind of a person first and foremost, and then we worry less about the outcomes and just focus on doing what we believe to be right, then in the end, whether we face blessings or adversity, either way, we're in a better position to handle those things, to navigate those things, and to come out in a way that is favorable and uplifting, whether we get our way all the time or not. And finally, I would I'd close with this thought, because, these days we have a lot of uncertainty in the economy and a lot of different things going on that if you follow that sort of stuff, you could certainly have cause to believe that there's reason for concern. And maybe you have a 401k that's lost some value because the stock market went down, or you're worried about something related to geopolitical politics or tensions around the world, or any number of things. I ordered a figurine, a trinket off of Etsy, and it got put in the mail, so I'm waiting for it to come. And I saw that it was shipped from Kharkov in Ukraine, which is quite near where all of the fighting and war is going on there. And I was thinking about how I'm on the other side of the world. I'm living in relative peace and tranquility. And, you know, I really have very few concerns in life. I feel safe every day, and, you know, I have a lot of blessings there. And then I was thinking about, you know, what is it like to be living in a place where maybe you don't have that sense of security, you don't have that sense of routine, you live in fear of actual warfare and things like that, and you're still finding it in yourself to be able to run a business, to go down to the post office, to carry on and do your part to make the world a little bit better place, even if you feel like you're in a place where maybe the world isn't so secure or good. And where I'm going with this is priorities and understanding what matters in life. Money doesn't really matter that much. The things that we are chasing don't matter that much in life. What really matters is loving others. And that could be building relationships, which you're going to take with you for the rest of your life. It could be chasing, you know, romance instead of money. Or it could be taking a career path which empowers you to serve others in a way that you truly believe in, so that what you're doing isn't just chasing a paycheck. It's also, you know, actually doing something to make the world a better, safer, peaceful, or more well-connected place. There's so many different ways you can go down the path of talking about love and the importance of that in our society, in our lives. But I do think in times of adversity, it becomes increasingly important that we make room for love instead of the more practical things that often get a little bit more screen time. Because when you get through life, at the end, the truth of the matter is, whether it's you looking back on your life in your old age, or it's other people looking back on your life from their perspective, critically, the feedback will always be that the things in life didn't matter anywhere near as much as making time to fill your life with the things and the people that fill your days with love and a passion for service to something higher than self. Sometimes, especially when the world feels like it might be a bit out of control, it's important to remember that what matters the most is loving others and serving something greater than yourself. As always, good luck on your adventure, wherever it may take you. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.